Hello, welcome back. I'm not alone. I'm really not alone. Next to me is Michael Engelbrecht, well-known German music journalist here in one of the biggest radio station here in Germany, and a musician, not in person, but he has given us some statements, because Michael and me, we want to talk about a spectacular record, Fire Orchestra, Echoes, unbelievable, and I'm so pleased that Michael Engelbrecht shares his opinion, his knowledge, and the question he has taken over to Mats Gustafsson, and amazing insights, amazing informations. Michael, is it safe to say already the record of the year or too early? What's your opinion?
It's one of the records of the year. So say I, so you and Richard Williams, the English journalist, also committed the sentence to tape. So I think it's a very, very wonderful album.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's huge. It's huge in every sense of the word. When I put it on my turntable, the recording, the producing, the production is breathtaking, and for me as a non-musician, I have no idea how you can handle this complexity.
Yes. And normally I'm a bit skeptical because of the approach of Mats Gustafsson, the saxophone player and one of the composers of this work, because it goes the whole circle. It goes into every corner of musical history, of jazz, of world music, of African moods, of Brazilian moods. And so I said, well, isn't this a little bit too much? And I listened to the album, and I said to myself, no, it isn't at all, because there is a very strange coherence of all these different elements. You have the feeling this all happens for a reason, and for very good reasons. It's not someone who makes a kind of potpourri of our modern world music. It's something that's really done with passion, with fire, and
yes,
with intention, and with a lot of good intentions.
A lot of fire for sure. And when we talked about this record today, maybe one explanation. Why don't you see Michael Engelbrecht? We discussed it, and you don't see him because he's a radio voice, and he wants to stay a radio voice, which might be confusing on YouTube, but hey, come on. We get the same information, or almost the same information. Yeah, when we talked about this record, and we talked a lot about this record so far, I said it reminds me of Kamasi Washington's Epos. And you said, no.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of Kamasi Washington's music. It's too bombastic for me. Mm-hmm. And you might say that this album, with the 3 records and the 2 CDs, is also kind of bombastic.
Yeah.
But it isn't really for me, because it's a kind of controlled, bombastic thing. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of space in the music.
Absolutely.
There is a lot of breath in the music. Yeah. There is time to relax. And so every big band in the world loves these moments where everybody goes all in, where everything explodes. But even the explosions here are very well chosen. So you have these moments where there's a kind of controlled chaos. But then again, you have certain leitmotifs. You have moments where every of the musicians takes time to listen. And Mats Gustafsson and his compadres, they look at this music as a kind of paint box. Not everybody's playing all the time. They chose the moments where they listen to one another and where they play. And when they play with passion.
We're talking 43 musicians here, right?
Yeah. And we're talking the fact that this album has been wonderfully mixed by Jim O'Rourke. And this was one of my questions for Mats Gustafsson. What did Jim O'Rourke, the old maestro of avant-garde, of mixing, a very interesting background figure in contemporary music,
for sure,
did for the music? Let's listen to what Mats told me.
Question number 7. Jim O'Rourke is a very, very important part of this album. He really added a different level, I think, to the music by the way he was mixing it together and what he was hearing. And he had totally free hands, and we suggested him, even if he'd liked to make some kind of collage kind of things, he could do that. He could shift around stuff, but he kept the basic pieces together and the forms that we had decided on. So it's a mixing thing that he added, and the way he makes certain instruments to really speak, to come in front of stuff, is just amazing. I think the sound is spectacular, and the mastering from Lupo in Berlin is also absolutely genius. So we were very happy. I think we had a very strong material to begin with, and Jim added many levels to this. He's a genius. There's nothing else to be said about Jim O'Rourke. He is a genius.
Wow, amazing insights. Amazing. Yeah, and this also adds up to a wonderful release on vinyl. And again, we can be very, very happy as vinyl collectors that we see such a release on vinyl, right?
Yes.
A few years ago, a decade ago, for sure not on vinyl, right? What do you think, Michael?
Yes, it's wonderful, and every listener can approach the music in a very special way. When someone thinks, well, 2 hours of music, nearly 2 hours of music, from start to end, it's a bit too much. You can put on a single side of an album and really listen deeply to it. And so the effect will normally be that you immediately want to turn the other side and listen on, because it's such a seducing music. It's really seductive. It's a music that looks for the listener and cares for the listener.
But you have to listen to it, in my opinion. You have to sit there and actively listen to it. It's not a music you put on when somebody comes visit you and play it during dinner or lunch. For sure.
That's a good idea to end the party.
Yeah, exactly. This is, in my opinion, a record that affords your complete attention.
Yes, I must say, I really fell in love with this album, or this box set, because it's really music to be inhabited by the listener, not to be looked at it from a distance.
Yeah.
And this is so wonderful with this kind of big band music. You, as a listener, you become a kind of member of the band, because when listening, you are inside. You're not someone who is admiring a painting from a distance. You're in the music. And
yes.
I don't like this word, but it's really immersive.
It is. It is. Otherwise, you have to get into it. Otherwise, it might become too exhausting.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm quite sure. Yeah.
Now on the other side, we have a little Brazilian, an African corner in this music that is very interesting. When I listen to the music, let's say 1 hour, suddenly I was listening to a berimbau or a dusunguni. And I said, what's that? It's the spirit of Nana Vasconcelos there. And I said, well, what did he do? And I looked to the names on the record, and there was Christa Botane, an old, very famous figure in the Scandinavian music scene. He must be over 80 years by now. And I asked Mats Gustafsson about this connection between Don Cherry, who once lived in Sweden, and Christa Botane, and the other one, well-known, Bengt Berger. And so this is what he told to me.
Bengt Berger is, of course, a very important figure on the Scandinavian scene. But for me personally, and for us, Christer Botén has had a very larger impact on the music, and he's also part of the Fire Orchestra since many years. He was also the one who taught Don Cherry how to play those African string instruments like the gimbri or the dusunguni, and they were both very important for the development of creative music. And what they did together with Don, for instance, in the 60s and 70s, are just fantastic, and very many musicians and artists were following in that direction, basically, when you could very freely mix traditions from all over the world with jazz and rock, and it was a seamless process of very creative music. And I think, for me, it's one of the most interesting periods in music, period. And we owe them we owe them a lot, and it's been fantastic to be able to work with Christer for so many years for me, and also in the context of Fire Orchestra, of course. So we try to bring in as many colors and instruments as we can in the orchestra. We always did this, and this is extreme since we are 43 musicians. And we happen to have a berimbau in the studio with Joan Romero, fantastic percussion player. First time we worked with him. And Christer brought his instrument with him, and we had a lot of unique electronics and stuff. So it was very much, it was fantastic to be able to paint with all those instruments at hand, basically. So, grab it.
Paint with all those instruments. That really describes it's very well, right?
Yeah, it's a wonderful kind of painting, and as I said before, this music is well structured.
But how big is the part of the improvisation when it comes to this record? What do you think?
They did some instant composing, because in the moment they went into certain details of the sound, and they sent signals to go on in that direction. But all in all, it was well structured, and the music relied on certain elements. And inside of these elements, there was a lot of freedom going on. And one of the basic things of the album, one of the mysteries, and one of the things I really love, are the 3 long songs there. One song from a Norwegian or Swedish singer I know by name, Marianne Valentin, who did a kind of evocation of the future. The old saxophone player Joe McPhee went deep into Afro-American history of jazz music and of dark moments of Black American history in the United States of America. And the third song is one of Latin America, from the late 60s, early 70s, a little funky song, and they did a big thing out of it. And I said, what's that? That's a celebration of life. That's like a party in the middle of the album. And it shows that it goes also on a level of emotions into all extremes, but so nicely structured that you're not lost in the music, but you really find little leitmotifs here, motifs there, coming back to you, and all very surprising and very strong.
Strong, yeah, that was one of the main impressions I felt during the listening of this record. Strong. It has a certain strength in it that I didn't feel quite often. They were so secure in the things they do. It's hard to describe for me in a foreign language, but they were totally convinced of what they were doing there. That was my opinion, and they just went for it and didn't stop. Like Forrest Gump. They run. and they do it, and they do it, and they do it.
The other interesting thing is that there is not one composer who says what everyone has to do, but there are 3 composers. The Fire Trio, the basic, they're all composers. Then they brought someone in, a woman who did the string arrangements, another one who did the horn arrangements. And you ask yourself, how can this all come together and be so one circle?
Yeah.
And it happens here. And to say one of your favorite words, I was stunned.
Is it? Do I say that? Gorgeous.
I was left speechless. I was stunned.
Yeah. And one other amazing thing, of course, and I think we should mention this. This album came out on the beautiful Rune Gramophone label.
Yes.
Which is really a label worth mentioning and an important label. Maybe give us your insights on this part.
Somewhere in the 90s, Rune Christoffersen did an extremely wonderful job by putting mainly the Scandinavian scene on front and brought out an amazing collection of music from electronica, new jazz, and it was full of surprises. It was kind of a steady flow of discoveries. And some years ago, there came a wonderful box set from Arve Henriksen, also on vinyl and CD, I think too, but vinyl was the primary thing.
Beautiful jacket design.
Beautiful, yeah. They always had these fantastic designs. And I asked Mats Gustafsson about his relationship to vinyl and to working together with Rune Christoffersen for so many years now. And this is what he told me.
Question number 8. I am a confessed discaholic, so of course, for me, vinyl is the only solution here. I love vinyl. I love every aspect of it. I love the background noise. I think life is anyway full of background noises, and we should be happy about that. I agree, it's a fantastic pressing. It's a quiet vinyl. It sounds absolutely spectacular. I'm guessing that the CD sounds great as well, but I prefer the vinyl every day of the week, every day of the month, and every day of the year. Vinyl is vinyl, and I love vinyl. One piece of vinyl a day keeps the doctor away. We know that. No, I mean, we are very, very happy that Rune Gramophone decided to go with our suggestion of making a triple LP box set, and it's a very special one for us, since this is the last project, this is the last release we do with Rune Gramophone, since he is now slowly retiring from the business. He will keep stuff available, of course, but he's not doing many more new productions. So this is the last thing that we are doing with him, and let's see where we can take the Fire Orchestra in the future, somewhere for sure. So thank you, Rune, for agreeing to do this monumental box set with us. Danke.
Oh, very moving.
Wow. That's quite something, isn't it?
I didn't know that at all.
Okay, so album of the year, maybe, doesn't matter, but an impressive, amazing, beautiful, interesting, must have release.
Yes, for some people surely a must have. When I first heard the album, Rune Christoffersen sent me the double CD for my radio program. I was so impressed. I mailed him immediately that it would rain rave reviews.
Yes.
And that exactly happened. I'm really happy that such an album, such an ambitious record, gets all these very positive reviews, and I don't think that this will be an album for musicians or for a small group of people, because they go all in and they do it.
Yeah, amazing. And amazing to have you on my channel. Finally we did it. We did our first video. Yeah, maybe, I don't know how it was watching me sitting here, watching me listening, but you had have had all those important information. I love doing it. If you'd love it, we will go on with this kind of videos. We can do those as live streams. And I would be very, very pleased if Michael Engelbrecht would agree on sharing his unbelievable knowledge of music and share his unbelievable popularity within or with other artists. I mean, you just heard the man himself next to me, without sitting here, of course, but still, those were original statements from the artist. Thank you so much, Michael.
Been a pleasure.
Was okay?
Yeah.
Not only on radio, no.
Everything is okay, but I think I'm more believable than unbelievable.
Okay. Whatever. Thank you for your time. See you on the next one. Bye.